So the Year of Shadow, am I right, fellas? There was a lot that happened. Like, look at all these layers I got right here. Here is my personal opinion on the best and worst parts of the Year of Shadow. I tried to get everything I could remember. This is all specifically Shadow related, so I'm not counting the Sonic Top Golf collab. So let's start with the start here. The Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie pack for Sonic X Shadow Generations. I gotta say, very big fan of this. I have always desired spin-off media finding its way into the game somehow. I think the skin is gorgeous. I think the voice acting was an extra mile they did not need to go. I mean, they got a Hollywood actor to do that. That's crazy. Someone that's known for movies was acting in a video game, a Sonic the Hedgehog video game, no less. A lot of people, when they think of the Sonic franchise, they're gonna think of like Sonic Colors, Sonic Boom, Sonic 06. They're gonna think of stuff that isn't that flattering, but then you just have the latest game that casually has Keanu Reeves in it, because you gotta remember, Sonic the Hedgehog runs the world. It doesn't matter what the woke have told you, Sonic has always been on top, baby. The level is gorgeous. I believe it was half developed by the Yakuza team. A lot of the assets are borrowed from the Yakuza games. The way that they do the lighting and the shading in that level, it actually convincingly looks like the real world compared to the lighting and shading in the game canon's levels. Like, when you're climbing the tower, it just looks like realistic white light versus, you know, Kingdom Valley's lighting. It's just so cool that fans of the games got to eat with new content just because a movie was coming out. Like, it's not often that fans of the games even get DLC anymore, let alone something that ties into the biggest event of the year. The Shadow Angry Birds crossover. I believe that this was a tournament for Angry Birds Friends, which is like that weird Facebook multiplayer game. It's like one of the only classic Angry Birds games that like still exists. I don't really know what to put this in. I mean, Angry Birds is cool. I know that they had those crossovers where you got the Sonic characters for the Angry Birds. I don't know. I installed it for a few seconds. I was like, eh. The DC Sonic collab, specifically Shadow Batman. I gotta say, this is like the biggest surprise out of it all. I think this is more shocking than the Keanu Reeves casting, personally. We don't really know a whole lot about this. We just have the confirmation of the comics. Hopefully we're gonna get figures of it, and the animation that we saw. So I don't think I can in good conscience put this in S tier just yet, but based on sheer design alone and the attention that they actually gave the pairing for every character, I actually made a whole entire video going over the genius of Batman Shadow's design with his gorgeous gray stripes and all. So I'll put him in an A tier. That's like another really prestigious collaboration with something, so just makes me feel validated in thinking that Sonic is such a good franchise by letting it play with other big boys. The Sonic Superstars Shadow Costume DLC. Like I was saying with the movie DLC, I adore when Sonic collaborates with Sonic, because it's not uncommon for Sonic to have multiple things going on at once in the franchise, but it is uncommon for these things to acknowledge each other and cross over. Like, I use this as an example all the time. Sonic Forces Speed Battle is a mobile game, but they have a level that's just Planet Wisp that was added to the game because of Sonic Colors Ultimate, and then in that stage they also have billboards that advertise Sonic Colors Ultimate. And I just think that's really cool that all of this can feel interconnected and all of it feels important enough to take place in the games. So adding a playable form of Shadow to a classic game is really funny and cool. Yes, it is Sonic in the costume. Some people didn't like that. I didn't care. I thought it was funny. Honestly, I feel like this deserves A tier as well. I mean, it's not as good as the Batman thing, but it was free DLC. I mean, come on. Speaking of Sonic Forces Speed Battle, we have Idle Shadow. This is a completely original skin that you're likely going to see in Sonic Rumble and maybe Sonic Speed Simulator. Really good skin. I believe this is loosely based off of Idle Shadow from Sonic Channel, which features one of my favorite pieces of Infinite artwork. I did not unlock this character in the game, so I can't speak on his gameplay. I think his design is okay. I'm not really a big fan of this general type of aesthetic. I don't think I'm really the audience for Idle Shadow. It's fun that they decided to have a few original skins for the Year of Shadow. why not? On top of that, we have Warrior Shadow, who is probably a little bit more my cup of tea. I actually covered this skin in one of my last Shadow Generations modding videos. I believe it was the alternate boss fights video. I think this is raw. I love that they incorporate the Black Arms logo on the top of his head here. I love that he gets armor and a weapon that's different than Lancelot. I love the way the gold pops on his palette. It's very, very nice. His moveset is pretty busted too, so I mean, does Sonic Forces Speed Battle really deserve A tier? I mean, if the Superstars DLC can get A tier, why not? I just love video game stuff. I love playable forms of Shadow. I think those are the coolest. Yeah, I think it deserves A tier. And speaking of playable forms of Shadow, in the movie and Speed Battle, we got all of that in one little thing here. Movie Shadow is pretty fun. He's got a unique Chaos Spear animation, which the original Shadow didn't have in Speed Battle, so that's a plus. His model looks surprisingly good despite being a low-poly mobile game. It's obviously not good as his movie model in the actual mainline game, but I just think that's so neat that two forms of Movie Shadow were added to two different official Sonic games within the same week. I honestly like him a lot, but I feel like I just respect Warrior Shadow a little bit more out of principle just because it's an original thing. You know, still A tier, of course. The Lego sets. Sonic really popped off with their Lego sets this year. Their original launch collection wasn't too impressive. It wasn't bad. It just didn't make me be like, oh, I need that right away. But they've done the Supersonic Bio Lizard set. They have Lego Maria. You know, they've done a lot of really cool stuff with Sonic Adventure 2 specifically. And here you got Radical Highway with a Rhino Bot, which is one of my favorite badniks, actually. And then you got a Lego Dark Rider, and on top of it all, this set was only 20 bucks. It is the cheapest Sonic set, and they knew why they had to make it cheap. It was Shadow the Hedgehog with his Dark Rider. They even include the Black Arms symbol on the Lego, which is just a pairing that I never thought I would officially see. That feels like something that I could only ever see out of like a fan-made Lego image on Google, but no, it's real. Honestly, this is a step above the rest. This is really good. It's the only Sonic Lego that I've actually bought, and I'm not even a huge Shadow fan. I'm a Knuckles guy. Sonic X Shadow Generations. If you've watched my channel before, you know that this is the big boy for me. This is my favorite thing in the whole year of Shadow. I just feel like the story is the most touching. The quality of animations are gorgeous. It just means so much for the mainline direction of Sonic. It's building off of Frontiers. It gives us the closest look at to what the future games are going to be like. It treats the characters seriously. It references things beyond just Shadow, like the fake Emerald and Tails and the Soliana government. There's just so much good writing in here, and they found another good excuse to put Big in there, Shadow's boyfriend. And of course, they added a bunch of stuff to the Sonic side with the drop dash, the new skins, the Chow hunting, and the Chow animations plus new models are just gorgeous. It's just so cool that it's one big game. It's perfect for people that get into the franchise because of the movie, and then they come into the games. It's just an amazing introduction and gives them everything that they've probably been looking for. Strictly to gas up an amazing game, they made probably the most god-tier piece of animated Sonic media that exists. I love the Knuckles prologue. That's probably my personal favorite, but I absolutely think that Shadow Generations Dark Beginnings is a better animation. It is 14 minutes of callbacks, lore, character development with Commander Abraham Tower, showing that he's actually progressed since the events of Shadow the Hedgehog. It shows how well Rouge understands Shadow. You got the vocal track Without You. You get to see a hand-to-hand combat with Emerald and Shadow. You get to see Omega in action for the first time in over a decade. Rouge in action for the first time in over a decade. You get to see what makes Maria such a likable person, and the voice work on Maria too. Damn, bro. They did an amazing job at her being energetic but also exhausted because she's sick all the time. This animation hyped me up sufficiently for the game because I didn't know how to feel about Kirk's Shadow for the longest time, and then this animation just made me realize, oh shit, wait, no, he's actually a really good Shadow. He just needed proper research and voice direction. There are so many visual references in this animation, like the egg pawns from Sonic Colors with their samurai outfits. It depicts them as actually kind of dangerous with the ability they have to attack and dodge. The flying dog from Shadow the Hedgehog is a boss fight. The egg breaker from Shadow the Hedgehog, showing you that Eggman still uses this machinery, even though it's been a few years. It's amazing to see those in-game assets properly animated like this is a real world that exists outside of just gameplay mechanics. So this is easily number 2 on the whole year of Shadow for me. Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Now, for a lot of people, this was their number 1 moment of the year of Shadow, and this was obviously what the whole year of Shadow was marketing. Everything that they did this year was to market this movie, because they knew how big this release would be. I kind of have some hot takes about this film. I don't think it covered a lot of new ground writing-wise in the Sonic franchise, especially compared to Generations and Dark Beginnings. I feel like the characters were done well, but I don't think that they were done as good as they could be. I feel like they took a lot of parts from Sonic and Shadow and Knuckles out of them, kind of glossed over a lot of things, missed a lot of opportunities in the Sonic and Shadow rivalry. They changed a little bit too much about Shadow's backstory, and kind of in doing so removed a lot of interesting parts about his internal conflicts. I feel like the best part about Sonic 3 was the art direction and the animation. Nothing really to criticize there, besides, like, I guess I just wish the fights were a little longer. But yeah, I mean, I just don't think they capitalized on Sonic and Shadow's rivalry. I think that Knuckles deserved a bit better in the combat. I don't even think that Knuckles should have won a fight against Shadow. I just wanted a proper badass fight against Shadow like Emerald got in Dark Beginnings, honestly. All in all, it was pretty good, but I might, just based on my pure enjoyment, it might be A tier, honestly, because there was a bunch of details that they just glossed over or completely took away from characters and certain story beats in SA2, to the point where it kind of robbed me of a lot of the enjoyment I wanted to get out of it. So, I mean, like, it's a good movie. I'd rewatch it. It's gorgeous. It does a lot of really cool stuff, but writing-wise, it really didn't do anything for me. I feel like they didn't really depict Knuckles as a good guardian. I feel like they missed the opportunity to show that Knuckles had gained trust and loosened up by trusting Sonic with the Master Emerald, because Game Knuckles would fight anybody over the Master Emerald. I feel like you need to get over that character development hurdle for the scene where he trusts Sonic to be a little bit more powerful. Just not really my cup of tea. The Shadow manga. Now, this Shadow manga is actually really cool. It takes place over various parts of Shadow Generations, it seems. I don't know, I haven't really been able to read it because they won't translate it, and they won't release it in North America for whatever reason. I know Mephiles is in this story. I'm pretty sure there's an issue that crosses over with Sonic. The artwork I've seen is really raw, and just the concept of a Sonic manga in general is just a really good thing. But because I can't read it, and I can't speak on the story or the characterization, it's probably just A tier. But it is really cool to see Mephiles officially in a Japanese manga. Like, that's just interesting. Shadow and Dream Team. This is one of 3 playable versions of Shadow that released within 1 week between the Forces movie Shadow and the Generations movie Shadow. This guy has a whole brand new moveset, animations, brand new story cutscenes. He has weekly missions. This is a very, very good video game. I don't actually like him more than the Keanu Shadow because, I mean, come on, how could you top that? But he is probably one of the cleanest playable versions of Shadow. Definitely up there with Generations, if I had to be honest. The Fearless Year of Shadow real-life Dark Rider. Now, this was shown at, like, racing events, I believe, exclusive to the US. So I wasn't able to even get close to this, and even some of my US friends, like, just straight up could not make a trip there because the tour was so limited. It's honestly kind of B-tier worthy just because of how inaccessible it was. They showed it, like, gaming conventions and movie premieres, so that's pretty cool that they were kind of, like, bringing it around as a trophy. I'm pretty sure they brought this around Anime Expo the same time they had the Sonic Speed Cafe. So that's kind of cool, but it's just the fact that, like, such a small amount of people could actually see this. And it is awesome that they tried to make a real life version of the Dark Rider, but it doesn't really look that accurate to me. Where are the little rear view mirrors? It's B tier. It's really cool. It's really novel. It'd be neat to see it at Sega's office or something, but And finally, Sonic Rumble. Now, this isn't necessarily a Shadow-specific thing, but I mean, come on, this was also a live service game being developed to siphon money from the movie. And, I mean, Shadow is in it, and he has multiple skins. I have gotten to play this. I have the beta version. Yeah, it's pretty good. I didn't really get to sink my teeth into it because I don't really like mobile controls. I'm kind of waiting for the PC version. I'd say it's a solid A. The idea of like a big scale live service Sonic game that's free is really interesting to me because like the widest possible audience can probably get into that and have fun with it. I love figures. I have several videos on my channel about collecting the Jack-specific Sonic figures. So these are specifically Doom Shadow related merch. Something that we obviously really need for the Year of Shadow. I mean, come on. It's interesting because when Frontiers came out, we did not get very much merch at all that was Frontiers specific. I think we got a Sage plush, a Sage keychain, and like a $20 prize figure statue of Sonic protecting the Coco. Outside of that, I don't think we really got anything else. We didn't get a First Four Figures statue. We didn't get a Jack-specific Cybersonic or a Coco figure. Didn't get any of that. But Shadow Generations, being as big as it is, it gets both a First Four Figure statue and a figure. Now, I believe this is like a 6-inch figure with lots of articulation on it, and of course, detachable, giant, thick Doom wings. This is a gorgeous little figure, and compared to the statue, it's pretty affordable. It's like $50 compared to the $400 that you'd pay for the statue. Since I love the figure so much, I'm not actually big on 6-inch. I like collecting the 4-inch mainly just because of consistency, and I think it's honestly like the perfect size for a little collectible figure. I feel like this is everything I could have asked for in a Shadow the Hedgehog figure. I'm willing to put this just under the movie. I don't have it myself. I haven't seen one at all yet. But it's really cool, and I'm just really glad that they're making toys of the most recent game, like Jazzwares did with Sonic the Black Knight, Sonic Colors, and Sonic Unleashed. So it's just nostalgic to see them pumping out figures on a timely manner based on the brand new game, because it makes the game feel important. And I don't have this statue, but I know just off of sheer quality alone that this is definitely worth the money if you have it spare. It's obviously very expensive, but I'd say it's worth this tier. I do think it's cooler than Dream Team Shadow. I'm not sure if I think it's cooler than the actual Keanu DLC for some reason. It's probably cooler than this like $7 DLC with one level, because I mean, look at this pose. That's straight out of the final kill in Shadow Generations. But yeah, I guess this is my Year of Shadow tier list. I'm sure there's probably some small things I've forgotten. There is the one-shot Shadow story coming out on IDW soon. I can't read it, so I can't really rank that. There's obviously more Year of Shadow stuff happening, but I can't see into the future. What am I, Silver the Hedgehog? C tier is like kind of an actively confusing thing. I don't really understand who this was for. To be quite honest with you, I think this was just them utilizing whatever brands they had. B tier is like, it's cool. It's nice that it exists, but I think that we all would have been fine without it. A tier is like, this is good. This is nice filler content that keeps us thinking and entertained for a few months, but it doesn't give me a lot of long-term fulfillment until we get to like the higher ranking of the tier here. And then S tier is just like genius additions to not just the Year of Shadow, but the franchise in general. Like, all of this is gonna stick with me for years to come, and I'm really, really pumped that this is a thing that we get to have. That's my ranking for the 2024 Year of Shadow events. Let me know what you think. Give me some death threats down in the comment below if you don't like what I said about Sonic 3. And if you're new here, consider checking out my Sonic modding playlist, because I like to cover all Sonic content, fan-made and official, but that's my usual thing. I like to get up all into the mods that I play with a free camera, and I like to analyze it, down to the tiniest little threads in their clothing.